So the success in your marriage reminds me of John Gottman and his book about, and he was in Seattle, and they did do you know who John Gottman is?
Not familiar.
Okay.
I may be and just don't know it.
Yeah, you probably are. But what they're known for is they put recording devices in a house, and they actually witnessed people in married life.
Oh.
And they did a really long-term study. It's the best study that I've heard of. And it's considered a very good study about what makes some people divorce and some people stay married. And it's exactly what you said. It's that people are basically that if they're polite to each other.
Right.
And that's what they did. They if this couple is kind to one another, they don't have to agree.
Right.
But how do they fight? Are they fighting fair, or are they speaking to each other like as they would speak to like a friend, or someone that they respect? So that's huge. I'd love that. That's great. So you agree to be kind to each other. That's it. You don't have to be a different person or like all of a sudden, or flowers every week or nothing. If it's not in your wheelhouse, you don't have to do it. Right. But just to be polite to each other or to be kind, I think that's something simple that we can all do. And I see that in you guys. One of my favorite things about Andy is that her common sense is way higher than anyone else. So you seem to me like the dreamer. Mm-hmm. and you're like, well, why don't we do this? And like, this sounds great. And she seems to be kind of like the common sense or the one that is grounded.
Very grounded.
And so she's also really in tune to herself and her what she likes, what she doesn't like, but in kind of like a very peaceful way that is probably very stabilizing for you.
Absolutely.
So
and always has been.
Right.
Which is really interesting in our relationship. She really is. She's my secret. My superpower really is.
That's good.
Is her. Andy's very, very clear on what she's clear on, and she's very open-minded. Mm-hmm. So
at the same time.
Yes. And so she refers to herself and she calls it a shift, a sand dune. Which is kind of weird because when you think about a sand dune really is something that's shifting all the time because of the wind. Mm-hmm. But it's always in the same location. Mm-hmm. And so it's just this big thing there. And when it finally does make a shift, it's big because it's noticeable. And she's always been that way.
Nice.
Very, Andy has a literally every year that we've been together writes in January. Mm-hmm. She writes her list of what needs to happen in 2025, what the goal is or whatever.
That's neat.
She's ran a budget, a ledger, literally old school.
That's good.
Sits down and writes it all out because we recognize that personal, if you want to be in control, or if you want to be the one that's going to run your life, then you have to know what your life is. And I'm of the generation that, now we have phones and all that, but I grew up knowing that if you wanted to know about people, you look at their calendar to see how they spend their time, and you look at their checkbooks to see how they spend their money.
That's good.
And that'll tell you almost everything you need to know about them. And so Andy's smart. She's the one that started our real estate company. We had such a great time buying a house up here that she thought, gosh, I could do that. I could wander around and look at houses. And so she started the real estate company, and I joined her, I guess it would be 5 years after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, after Semanko Realty Group started.
Okay.
I then stepped away from my career in advertising, sales, and everything, and came up and started doing real estate together.
Nice.
And it's been fun. She'll tell you it was terrifying because I'm messy. She had a great organized life, great organized desk, office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm a, where can I put this where that I can remember where it is? And so all that's on top of my desk. And
That's good.
yeah, that kind of upset the apple cart a little bit, having to commingle space. But we figured it out and worked really well together.
Okay.
And have enjoyed that. So
that's good.
Anyway, that's a long way around to answer the question.
Well, like
that you had.
Basically, the success in your marriage is something I always admired. And the other thing that I like is that you guys take this trip on the boat. And I think
it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's Andy's mom, right? That had the boat. And she and her husband did that.
Yeah.
Before you guys, right?
Actually, Andy's mom has been single basically since I've known her.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So what was unique about her mom was a world history teacher.
And that's right. Yeah.
She was a teacher for both of us in high school. So we went to school.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fun.
Yeah.
So, Andy, she was a year older than me in school.
Mm-hmm.
And how we got together, she was a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. And our school was so small that a lot of the classes combined. So there would be freshmen and sophomores in the same class.
Right.
So I had a class with a couple of her friends that were cheerleaders. And I was helping them in math or something. So the end of my freshman year in school, we're outside or whatever, and I'm helping one of her friends get ready for the algebra test or whatever, the final or whatever. Yeah. And Andy came by and her friend introduced me to her. Now, she knew who I was. I knew who she was. We met like in 4th grade out on the playground years before that. Yeah. But we really didn't know each other. But what was interesting, Andy just thought, wow, that's a nice guy. He's helping my friend. Yep. That was her impression. Mm-hmm. So the next year, Andy is in class. She's a junior now. I'm a sophomore, and my sister was a senior, and Andy and my sister were in a class together.
Oh, wow.
So you know how you had high school yearbooks and stuff? Yeah, I gave my sister the yearbook and asked her to have all the people that I knew in her class, sign it.
Okay.
So Andy puts a message in my yearbook.
Really?
Still have the yearbook too. I could actually snap
You still have that?
Oh yeah. Have them all. But she just wrote a note in there that it was just said some nice things about me. Mm-hmm. And then the final line on that was, and I can just tell you make a great first impression. So now me as a sophomore, I'm like, wow.
Oh, check this out.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's something here. So next thing, I don't have a driver's license. She does. Uh-huh. And I talked to a friend of mine. I'm like, I need to ask her out on a date. Yep. So this is 1977, right?
Right.
So I had to convince a friend who had a girlfriend that had a car to do a double date.
Okay.
So that we could go on a date. And then it was in the winter. So and then he got grounded. So like the date was going to be canceled if we didn't figure out what to go on. So we talked his 2 younger brothers into lying to their parents for us, saying they're going to go on a camp out. Now it's October and cold. Mm-hmm. And so no kidding. We all go up into the woods and put his 2 younger brothers in a tent.
Really?
Yes. And then we went on the date.
Wow.
And the brothers are out camping until we're done with this date.
And they didn't care?
No. Okay. It was just a small town. And I'm like, man, if they hadn't agreed to do that, who knows what would have happened. But our first date was Walt Disney's Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo at the local theater, which was one.
That's the
Volkswagen
Bug
that talked. Yeah.
Is that like a sequel to Herbie? Is that like a sequel? One of the sequel movies to Herbie Goes Bananas, right?
Yeah. They were all during that time. But anyway, we started dating, and her mom was my teacher that year.
Okay.
And so I joke with her mom because her mom is actually single. Mm-hmm. And I tell her even now, I say, you have to be nice to me. I'm the longest lasting male relationship you've ever had. Uh-huh. But we've been together and done a lot of things together. Both Andy has got along very well with my family and vice versa with us.
Gotcha.
But her mom had a Lord Nelson tugboat and started in I guess it would have been probably right around the late 80s.
In
boating
Seattle or
yeah,
up here?
started up here. Kept the boat in Anacortes.
Oh, really?
And then boated up in the BC waters.
Okay. And you guys, where were you in high school?
We were in Post Falls, Idaho, which is
wow.
right on the state line between
Yep.
Spokane, Washington, and Coeur d'Alene,
Okay,
Idaho.
gotcha. Yep.
Little tiny town.
Uh-huh.
So her mom boated for years. And then at age 80, sold the boat, the Lord Nelson Tug. Now, the Lord Nelson Tug is a really cool, unique boat. And everyone that's ever seen one, it is the boat that can come into any dock and everyone wants to talk about it. It's kind of like the Harley that Andy and I had with the sidecar.
Yeah.
It was an 88. It was classic vintage. And no matter what, people just got happy when they saw it. It was sidecars are intriguing with people. So
like
at age 80, her mom sold the boat.
Okay.
And that kind of broke her heart because she'd been boating for, 25 years at that point. And the boat was getting to be too much maintenance and all this because it was an older boat. So she got into another boat thinking she wanted to be in a more stable boat. So she got a catamaran, had that built. And now catamaran's a great boat and very stable. But what's different is it's not like a little monohull 7-knot max.
Right.
Catamaran's plain, which means you're picking up speed and they're very gentle really on the water, even though it looks like you're going really fast. The wake's very small. Yep. But when you're going, 28, 30 miles an hour on water, a boat, your charts are shaking. I mean, it's not a friendly pilot experience.
Right.
So she's like, oh no, this isn't going to work. So put
she
that
sold
boat
the
up for sale, found the boat that we have now.
Okay.
And what our agreement was on that was, okay, you buy this. This is not a boat you can single hand. She could single hand the catamaran and the tugboat, but our boat you can't single hand. So we said, okay, so here's what we'll do. And keep in mind, now we're in our 50s, so we're looking to do things that we wanted to do.
Right.
We will partner with you on this boat, and then we will extend your boat life if you teach us everything you know about boating in the BC waters.
Right.
And so she did.
Nice.
So picture this: we're in our 50s, and we're spending anywhere from 60 to 90 days a summer boating.
Okay.
Who does that?
Yeah. Okay. So
old people do that.
Does she live in Post Falls and then spend the summers in Anacortes on the boat?
No, she lived in Post Falls, and then Andy and I we ended up in Washington, D.C., going to college.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And then her mom left Idaho and came to Seattle to get a master's degree at the U of W.
Got it.
In like 1985.
I see.
We moved back. We were actually left Washington, D.C. in 1985, figuring we wanted to go somewhere on the West Coast.
Okay.
And then we actually happened to be in Seattle in July and broke. And we thought, what a great, beautiful city to be young and broke in. And that's literally how we made that decision.
I love it.
To be here. So she was in Seattle at the time.
Okay.
And then ultimately in 2000 moved up to Anacortes and has been up here since. We moved up here in 2003.
Okay.
And have been here since. But on the boat thing, I'll take that into work-life balance.
Right.
10 years before that, I spent 1 week on the tugboat with her up in the BC waters, up in the Broughtons. And it was, and keep in mind at that time, we were in the thick of the chaos, the stress, the
you're
debt.
In your early 50s?
I was 40. I would have
40s?
It would have been in 2006. So I was probably early 40s.
Okay. Yep.
I spent a week on that boat with her. And when I got on the float plane to come back to Seattle, I remember physically feeling ill, knowing I was going to step back into what I was going to step back into. And then what I realized is that I had spent a week, and for the first time in my life, I couldn't tell you what I thought about. I couldn't tell you about the conversations we had.
Yep.
I was so checked out and so relaxed that I didn't even know that was possible.
Yep.
So I had when we agreed to do the boat partnering with her and give that time, we knew what we were stepping into. And I realized, wow, maybe we can pick up some lifestyle, some balance there. So because we owned a company, we had to, the technology allowed us to do that. We had a satellite phone and all that. but we called it leapfrogging. So there were either 3 of us on the boat or 2 of us on the boat.
Okay.
And we'd do the float plane in and out, which was another amazing experience. That
is awesome.
So we're in the BC waters, and then, oh, geez, too bad, so sad. We got to get on a float plane and fly over all these beautiful islands back to Seattle, right? Yeah. So that in itself was kind of an adventure in that journey.
Yeah.
And it was a point where we could just be together and be quiet.
Yeah.
And just be still.
Did you read a book during those times?
No, Andy did. It's really interesting. I don't want to say I'm kind of weird. I stopped reading books. If this sounds, when I was 50,
you would just sit.
I would just sit, and I'm okay with my thoughts. And by the way, I do a lot of thinking, but what I've learned how to do is not let my thinking obsess me.
Right.
So I'm when we walked across Spain, we did the Camino de Santiago.
Oh, dang. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
So
you're right.
I did not do headset. I wanted to find out what goes through your mind when you're walking 800 kilometers in a 30 to 35 day period where you're just,
that's it.
What's that cadence? There's a certain rhythm that you get into. What goes through your mind?
Right.
And that was what I wanted to discover.
That's pretty cool.
Andy took that time because we're walking 6 to 7 hours a day. She listened to Audible and loved doing that because it takes time to read, right?
Yep.
And so I have read a lot from age 10 to probably age, I'm going to say 45.
Right.
I've read, and when I do read, the subjects that I like to read are historical fiction about a place we're going to travel.
Oh, really?
To get the little history bio on it. I'm a fan of biographies. Love everyone's stories. Totally intrigued with it.
Yep.
But I also read self-help and the power of positive thinking.
Yep.
All the inspirational, like the Ogmandino, Napoleon Hill, all that stuff.
Yep.
That's all old school now.
It is.
But
great though.
That is the foundation. When you listen to even all the speakers now, they'll all refer to all these old timers.
They've all said it before,
First book I ever read, my dad gave it to me. I was 10 years old, and it was a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Ogmandino. You've ever heard of this book?
No.
Okay. There's your assignment.
Okay.
It's a quick, easy read. You can get it on Amazon.
Greatest last Salesman name is Ogmandino?
Ogmandino.
Ogmandino?
Yep. Amazing, very inspirational author.
Great.
It's a tiny little book. And my dad gave me that book, and I read it, and I did a book report on it in school. Yeah. And it was, when you read the book, then you'll probably know a little bit more about me and the impact or why that connection you have with me. And I got that at age 10.
All right, I'm going to have you sign that book.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. It's one of my favorite books.
Good.
And so I did read a lot of mental, I'm going to say self-help or whatever, but just I recognized, I've been fortunate. I've always worked. So I've never been afraid to work.
Right.
Never. I've always had initiative. I just, I didn't see things happening unless somebody did something to create something to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then I read enough to understand time will take care of everything. Now, it doesn't always go how we think it's going to.
Yeah.
But for me, the secret is keep moving. But I never lost sight of people. And I literally, we have investment portfolios, and we've had it both. By the way, I could talk to you forever about how to fail, because I promise you, I've had some harebrained ideas that didn't work out so well. And we paid the price financially for those. Yeah. But it's all part of the deal.
Yep.
I draw from that on the next move that we're doing or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Andrea's the same way. And what's interesting is we've been together on all of them. So if we're going to go down, we're going to go big together, right?
That's cool.
But we find that we don't normally go down because we're quick enough to recognize, hey, if we need to change course, do it now. Don't be upset about it. Just do it.
Right.
We used to think that being successful was something unique and special and different. Yeah. It's not.
No.
We figured out it's in the decision process. Like if you and I are talking about something, you want to do it. Mm-hmm. Fear keeps people from doing a lot of things.
Right.
Fear of unknown or whatever. Mm-hmm. And rightly so. That's a normal thing. And I actually think it's part of the process.
That's right.
If you're going to do something that matters, it ought to do something to you when you're thinking about it, right? Scare you or make you happier. Why bother?
Yeah.
But what we learned is if there's that line, that moment that's going to make us different than the other person. Right. And that is stepping across that line. So we want to do this. We don't know how to do it, but we know it can be done. There's plenty of evidence that people can do all kinds of things. How do I do it?
Right.
Well, one, just pay attention. It's not hard. Just find someone that's doing it and then observe. Right. And then if you're not afraid, ask. Because I have never in my journey met anybody that had something to contribute that wasn't willing to share if I asked.
It's true.
What I've learned is if I offer to share and they're not asking, it doesn't do anything for them. Mm-hmm. And so I've just learned if they ask, I have a test. I've done it all my life with people. People are like, hey, we need to do this or whatever. And I'm like, sure. Okay, here's my card. Give me a call. Mm-hmm. And then it's on them.
Right.
And you'd be amazed how many people don't call.
Right. Okay. They're not ready.
But what's interesting is the people that do, they get it. They get all of it. Right.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, the secret, I believe, was when Andy and I recognized what was responsible for us being successful was not that we got to the line and then made a decision to step over it. It was that we got to the line recognizing we're scared. And then we stepped over the line.
Yep.
And the secret was that it wasn't stepping over the line. It was recognizing that we were still scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the difference is we didn't step back because of the fear.
Right.
And so by getting over the line, now we're committed to what's next and then adapt and modify. So success really isn't a great, unique, fantastic thing that some people have and others don't. It's just keep moving. And then include and don't forget how you got there.
Yeah.
And that's where the people come in.
Yeah.
So now I'm 62, I'll be 63. I'm looking now at our next phase, and we are now in our next phase.
Yeah.
We've traveled enough that if something happened that we couldn't do anymore on our list, I will promise you could go to our Google photo albums over the last 15 years, and it even blows my mind sometimes to see what we've done.
Yeah.
We've done some amazing things.
Yep.
Well, I get to talk to people that want to know about, I can't tell you how much of my time now is spent talking to people that want to have our lifestyle or just travel and do the things that we do. Some people are afraid to travel like we do because they don't know how to do it.
Yep.
And we've done it enough that we can give some really good advice. So if someone's only got a couple weeks or 3 weeks or whatever to go do something in Europe, we can spend an hour with them and help them understand how to book their flights, book their transportation, and how to prioritize what they want to do in that time so that it can be a good trip, not a stress trip. Because, people want to get away from the stress. Right.
Yeah.
So our experience helps there. But if we had to stop all that now, we're totally prepared for it because it's part of our phase. We are now in our phase of availability. So we continue to travel while we can. But at any point, if we are needed by anything, our children or our parents or for each other, we can, and we won't resent that. Okay, well, maybe that part's done, or we have to put it on the table for now.
Hey, man, you're definitely book material here. What you said about fear, I really like that. Being okay with being uncomfortable.
You have to.
Yeah. And it's not going to be easy. And some of those moments where you're afraid and you go anyway, I really respect that. I can relate to that. Also, that fear usually means that you're doing something meaningful.
Right.
And so I love that about how you articulated that. And then some of the way you guys can vacation too is good. I heard Matthew McConaughey say one time, like there's like certain levels at 6 days and for 13 days and 20 days or whatever.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's
There's
interesting.
truth to that.
Is there? Yeah.
Yes.
So
they're magic numbers.
Yeah. And so when I do have some holiday, I try to go places where the Wi-Fi is not working, or you're off. You're not. You can put your phone away, and you spend time either hiking or surfing, or something where you're not being distracted by even distracted by your goals.
Right.
So I remember a trip sailing where we were in the middle of nowhere, and I was really bored and really frustrated that I was so bored. and you were talking about just being okay with alone with your thoughts. It was kind of like that. I didn't have enough stimulation. I wasn't I wasn't watching anything, or I wasn't reading very much. I read The Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, which I really recommend. I love that book. But there wasn't enough to be excited. There wasn't enough excitement.
Right.
But when I got back from that trip, man, I felt like there was reawakening,
renewed focus.
Focus. I was just hungry.
Right.
For all the possibilities this world has.
You probably experienced making space.
Yeah.
Creating more space in your mind to absorb a little bit more.
Maybe.
What I find when I say checking out or going off the grid, it's not that I'm gone. I'm clearly all there. But I think, Andy and I, we call them time bubbles. So how we travel and how we move now. Like, for example, we run our life with a calendar. And this is interesting because that can get rid of a lot of angst for people if they understand it's okay to run yourself with a calendar. Why? Well, remember when I said about, gee, I'm sorry I can't do it that time, I'm in an appointment?
Yep.
That appointment might be my walk on Little Mountain for 2 hours.
That's right. That's an appointment. Yep.
So those are boundaries.
Nice.
So if you want to get rid of the clutter and everyone else taking what you don't have to give or not enough to give, then you can identify your boundaries in your calendar on something like that.
That's good.
And then the other thing that we do is, Andy and I know, we knew where we're going to be in May this year. And you know this about me. You saw me in July before we went back to Ireland. And I was already lining up to you what we were going to do when we went to Scotland in October. And we went to Greece, and then now this year we're going to go back into Italy and Tuscany, and then next year we've got Croatia on the. So we know where we think we want to be and stuff like that. But Andy coined the phrase, it's all in the transitions. How we get there is knowing where we're headed and when we're going to be there, and then we don't lose time and waste time when we're here trying to make that happen. That's a different time bubble. Right now, we're in this time bubble. This is our transition here. Okay. And our travels, and especially the Ireland experience for us, is just like being on the boat.
Is it really?
Yeah, because on a boat, it's small. And of course, our cottage in Ireland, it might be 1,200 feet.
Okay.
Might be.
That's not a
that.
bad
And
size.
It's old. It's 120-year-old stone cottage.
That's
and
cool.
it has systems. The hand dug well is a kilometer up the way, and the tallest pasture on the road. And there's so we have well, septic, and energy management. Now, energy costs in the EU, electricity is insane.
Really?
It's our biggest expense.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Electricity.
Yeah. You use it, you're going to pay for it dearly.
Is there propane there?
Yeah,
or natural gas?
Yeah, they do propane. So your fuel will either be wood, used to be coal, no more coal, used to be turf, they're getting away from turf, and
turf?
electricity. Turf is peat.
Yeah.
Okay.
For heat?
Yeah. They burn it.
Okay.
Millions of year old dirt
that's
been dug. And now out of just mindfulness for it as a resource. It's not necessary to use, whereas before, it really was necessary. We're talking very rural, very...
Sure.
I don't want to say poor communities because poor is relative.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about Carlos and what Carlos is doing now with the farming. If you can live the lifestyle you want to live within the financial means you have, are you poor?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Right.
And so what Ireland's done for us is magnified the burden of consumption that we grew up with and have here. There is no Costco in Ireland.
Right.
And here we have the benefit of that. But when you think about how we shop, we have Amazon just at our fingertips. Oh, you and I could be having a cup of coffee together, and I might say something. Yeah, I saw it on Amazon. You could quickly go to your app, order it, and it'll be at your house tonight or tomorrow.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. That consumption in Ireland, they don't have storage sheds. Barns are for the animals. Animals are their livelihood.
Yeah.
They don't buy stuff and store it. And
I think the reason why the Amazon culture of consumption is so damaging to our psyche is that every desire is a suffering. So when we have a desire, we're going to be suffering until we get that. So being in an area where you don't have that Amazon option, I think there's much less suffering. And then also you really get to enjoy those little things like the taste of butter.
Right.
Or like maybe a vegetable, the taste of a vegetable or how it feels. Or growing your own vegetables. Instead of being able to buy them by the 2 pound at a time.
Right. Hey there, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Blake Perry Podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to sit down with us and to join us for this conversation. The conversation's not over, though. Come back next week and Dr. Blake Perry will continue his conversation with Joel Semanko as they continue to break down some of life's hardest lessons that they've had to learn the hard way. So thank you for tuning in. We look forward to having you back again. And until then, be well.